So today I'm going to be making some gold-filled rings. I don't work with gold-fill too often, mainly because I prefer sterling silver and gold-fill can be a little bit more finicky, and that's because there's only a thin layer of gold over the base metal, so you can't be too rough with it. You can't really file or sand it, but it's still a very beautiful and affordable alternative to using solid gold. So let me show you how I work with gold-fill. I probably do things wrong. Let me just show you what I do. So for the rings I'm making today, I'm going to be using gold-filled bezel, 14 gauge gold-filled round wire, and for the back plates behind the stones, I'm actually just going to use sterling silver sheet, and this is 24 gauge. The main reason I use sterling silver sheet for the back plate is that it's much cheaper than gold-filled back plate, plus you don't really see it anyways. And another reason that I like using sterling silver as a back plate is for gemstones that are slightly transparent or fully transparent. I feel like having the bright white sterling silver behind the gemstone or fine silver brings out the true colors a bit better than if gold was behind the gemstone, then that would definitely change the color of the gemstone. The one thing that I think is a must-have when you're working with gold-fill is this flux. It's called fire scoff. I've tried using other types of flux when working with gold-fill, but this one has worked the best. It really helps the solder flow better. It protects the gold-fill from getting discolored. I find that gold-fill is very easy to discolor. If you don't really coat it with flux, it basically turns kind of pink, and it's almost, actually it is impossible to get rid of the pink, so I highly recommend getting a bottle of this. To solder gold-fill bezel wire, I use 14K yellow gold. Normally I use medium flow, but I didn't realize I'm out, so I'm just gonna use easy. I'm pretty sure it'll still be okay. Now I'm just going to use my saw to trim off the excess, being careful not to get too close to the bezel. There's still a little bit of backplate that you can see next to the bezel. I'm going to use some of my files to clean that up a bit, but I'm not going to file all the way to the bezel, just as close as I can get it without touching the bezel. And the reason why you don't want to file gold-fill bezel is because the bezel is very thin. You're very likely to file straight through the gold layer and expose the base metal underneath it, usually brass. And if you do that, the bezel will look blotchy, and also the brass will tarnish, so you'll have dark spots on your bezel. So when soldering gold-filled ring bends, I haven't really figured out a way to make them perfectly seamless, but to make as little excess solder as possible, I'm going to use a teeny tiny piece of solder. The solder seams are visible, however, they're not too lumpy, so when I polish them, they should blend in a bit better. So now I'm just filing a flat spot on the ring bends before I solder them onto the setting. It's important to have a flat surface on the ring bend, otherwise the setting could snap off of the ring bend quite easily. Other than adjusting the height of the bezel, I don't do any other kind of cleanup on the gold fill rings. They'll just go straight into stainless steel shot with some dish soap, and I just let the steel shot do most of the cleanup for me. When setting stones in a gold fill bezel, I always use an acrylic bezel rocker. I find that metal bezel rockers or pushers will definitely leave marks in the gold fill bezel, which will be hard, if not impossible, to take out later. So in order to prevent any marks or marring on the bezel, I highly recommend a plastic stone setting tool. This one I got from Etsy. I believe it's called a smooth set. I'm not gonna do any cleanup on these rings. I'm gonna go straight into polish with Luxie Pink polish on just a microfiber wheel. Sometimes I do use the blue silicone wheel to do a little extra cleanup. I just finished polishing the rings. As you can see, I got some polishing compound on the shell. One easy way to remove polishing compound from shells or stones, oftentimes sea glass, a lot of polishing compound gets stuck on sea glass. I find that Mr. Clean Magic Eraser takes it off really easily without damaging the shell or the sea glass. Better. Working with gold fill, you're not going to get a perfect finished product, but it's still such a beautiful material. It's definitely worth trying out. The bezel join on this one is a little bit more obvious. I just think some gemstones look so pretty in gold, but working with solid gold can be out of reach for some of us. So I think gold filled is a really wonderful alternative.